grab some paper, a pen or a pencil, and follow along. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. The important thing is that you make your mark. A lot of times I'll have kids tell me at the after-school program that I work at that they can't do something or they're not good at something. And I think no matter what your age is, it's easy to lose sight of the fact that everybody has something they're not great at. Everybody has plenty of things they're not great at. But there are things that you're not good at yet. You can get there if you work at it. So that's definitely a worthwhile thing to remember, whether you're pursuing drawing or painting or soccer. Doesn't really matter. What matters is that you're willing to put in the time and make it so that eventually you're good at it. You don't have to be perfect today. You just have to be willing to work towards tomorrow. If you want to get very good at doing this, do it 100 times. I'm not joking. If you do 100 of these, you'll have it figured out. By the end of the 100th one, you'll go, I could draw this with the light coming from any direction I want. Next, I'm going to do a letter C that face planted on itself for a nose. I like to look for really basic shapes as I'm drawing because I find that it makes it a lot easier for people to follow along. Especially I work with young kids, and for a 5 or 6 year old, if you show them a drawing and they want to copy it, it's very hard. If you tell them that it's a letter C, everybody can do that. No matter what you're drawing, just look for a really basic shape hidden in there. Everything is made of basic shapes. Now you're going to need to draw shoes too. We can just do some quick little, those are kind of like Charlie Brown feet. It's just a quick oval. It's almost like a small Italian bread loaf for a foot. I like to make my cartoon people a little bit ridiculous. So now that I've made this guy look so tough, I'm going to give him really tiny toothpick arms, because to me that's way more entertaining than actually making this guy look super tough. And then I'm going to give him little broccoli hands. So these are just quick little squiggles for fingers. If you're somebody that kind of holds a pencil with a death grip, I know a lot of my students, when I used to teach 7th and 8th graders at camp, they're used to holding a pencil the way they do to write, and they would have a really difficult time trying to go any lighter than that. And my advice to go light is almost pretend that you're trying to like tickle the paper with your pencil rather than, mashing into it. And the further back you hold your pencil, the harder it is to press down hard. So if you hold your pencil way near the back and just kind of lightly feather it like this, even if you are typically very heavy-handed, you'll be able to shade much lighter. And if you're somebody that draws too light, the thing that will fix that is lots of practice, because as soon as you build up the confidence, you don't mind drawing things darker. I think it was being timid when I used to draw too light. I was afraid to make the mistakes. But if you practice and practice and practice, you stop worrying about it so much. I'm actually kind of going off of my paper, but I'll still finish it so you can see the last of those details. That's actually kind of breaking a rule of mine. I always tell kids, or anybody really, when I'm teaching people how to draw something, when you make one of these mistakes and you find the edge of your paper, don't be afraid to admit, I ran out of space, and stop drawing right there. If this was not as a demonstration, I would have stopped it as soon as I reached the edge. A lot of times the tendency is to start cramming things before you reach the edge of the paper, and it's better to just let it run out of room. This line wasn't quite right on mine, so I'm going to try to fix it. Again, this is why I'm always saying don't be afraid to make mistakes, because this is the first go, and if you sat down and tried to do another one, you might realize that you could have done it better. That's fine. It's all part of the process. For anybody drawing at home, here's my advice. I know that's a mistake, and I pointed it out to you. You all know it's a mistake. If you draw this and you do it fairly well and you show somebody, most people aren't going to go, their eye won't go straight to the mistake. Yours will, because you know it's there. Here's my secret. Don't point it out. There's always a mistake in everything you're going to do. If you don't point it out, a lot of times nobody else will notice. So keep it your little secret and you'll get away with it most times. You might have been following along at home and you might have changed something 5 minutes ago on this and said, no, I want to do it a little bit differently. I highly encourage that. I think if you see a different way of doing it and you want to head a different direction with it, absolutely do it. That's the whole fun of drawing. And what I really like about teaching how to draw simple things like this is when I do this at my after-school program, I love seeing that every single kid got the exact same directions on how to do it. But when I walk around and I look at theirs, they all come out very differently, and almost always you can see the kids' personalities within their drawings, which I think is really cool. But it's kind of fascinating that everybody gets the same directions, but you interpret it a little differently, or you might stray from the directions a little bit on one step because you feel like it, or because you weren't listening. That's always also an option. You might have seen some things where you say, boy, I don't like the way he does that. And sometimes it's every bit as beneficial learning what you don't want to do, because what works for me doesn't work for everybody, and what works for some really incredible famous artists doesn't always work for me. Everybody approaches things differently. In this one especially, there's no set answer of how the end is going to look. You're going to decide that. There is no right way to do it and wrong way to do it, where it's more just about getting something onto the paper that wasn't there before you started. It's not necessarily how to draw a specific thing, it's just emphasizing the importance of creating something. Fun thing with doodling is you can basically make it however you want. There's no rules to it, you just go with it, and whatever comes out, comes out. If you love it, awesome. If you don't, try it again, and maybe the next one comes out a little better. You can also make little captions for what's going on, what he's thinking. Have some fun with it, because the whole joy of doodles is seeing what you come up with and how ridiculous you can make it. Usually my goal when I'm doodling is to make somebody else laugh, because that makes me pretty happy. So hopefully you can try that out and enjoy it as well. And if you're a grown-up watching along with this, don't forget that this is way more fun if you're following along doing it yourself. I've actually had a couple adults recently tell me that they've been following along with this show and they're actually really enjoying it. So don't be afraid to be a kid again and doodle a little bit. It's good for you. One of the things that I love about drawing, you start to sort of have a better visual memory of things that you've seen, I think, by practicing drawing. So if you sit and look at something and study it to draw it, you'll remember the lessons that you learned from doing that. And I feel like people that take the time to sit and draw kind of have a better visual map of the world than people that don't draw. You're more mindful of small details and things, and you're always learning. Every time you sit down to draw, you'll learn something. Whether it's a technique thing or if you just make an observation about something in the world, you'll always learn when you sit down to draw. To me, half the fun of drawing is that every time I sit down, it's never quite what I want. But I like the challenge of working with what I've already made and then trying to redeem it as much as I can and still get something that I'm happy with at the end. If I'm sitting down to draw on my own, it's rare that I care about how it comes out. I usually just want to enjoy myself for a little while and maybe relieve some stress. And this is the way that I like to do it, putting pen to paper. Thanks for watching another episode of the Mike Paige Doodle Club. I hope you enjoyed taking some time out of your day to kill some stress and just put something on paper that wasn't already there. Have a great day, and we'll see you again next time.